Ethnic hi and welcome. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for joining us to walk us through the various changes in qualifications and accreditation that's been happening with the ICF. Tell me, when your interest in developing accreditation processes capacity to accurately measure the development of the three cornerstones of professional practice, when did that interest begin?
Hi Danny, thank you for having me here. I got involved with the ICF around 2006 after I had my certification, and everything was very new and things were not moving very well, and it was a very American organization. And I liked the competencies very much. I thought, and the ethics and the codes of conduct of the ICF were things that attract me very much. So about 2008, I became a volunteer for the Accreditation and Certification Commission. And from then on, I always have been involved in one way or another one, up to the point that for 2 years, I was the chair of the Commission of Certification and Accreditation for the ICF.
So what makes it really important that accreditation works as an accurate measurement?
ICF is standing in getting the profession of accreditation as a profession, but also as a self-regulating profession. And therefore, to create that, the organization needs to be constantly improving the systems they have set up and reviewing them whenever it's necessary. So ICF has accreditation. That means that schools that give training similar to what ICF wants might get accredited, and on the other hand, individuals get certification by the ICF, and there must be a standard and a constant improvement of the system.
Would it be fair to say that as you move more towards self-regulation, the importance of the development programs being able to deliver grows increasingly? So programs and
yeah, it's very important that self-regulating professions, to keep them as professions and get the trust and the respect both from the members and from the users, that the organization constantly makes sure that things are working and that there are a lot of different systems set up so that the profession can grow.
So, I hear that ICF is again changing the certification requirements. What would you say are the major changes in the last 4 years?
In the last 4 years, before ICF had really not exams set up correctly, and with the come of 3 levels, it was necessary to create a system that was more or less accurate so that the different levels would be tested. They introduced the ACC, which is the associate certification, then you have the PCC being the professional, and then the MCC, which is the master level. In the last 4 years, to get the profession stabilized, what we have been doing is looking at the different levels and the difference of the different levels, creating trackers, creating different expectations for the levels. So we included for the ACC, which is the lowest level, we created a written exam, entry exam. The aim of that exam is just to check if the person that is applying as a coach knows how to coach. It's a very basic exam. Then, what we also included was that the ACC level could be extended a couple of times. Usually, when you have a certification, every 3 years you need to renew it. To do that, we also added for the ICC, to make sure that the coaches keep growing, we added 10 mentor-hour coaches in the process of 3 years. plus 40 hours continuous education. For the PCC and the MCC, it works exactly the same. We have 10 hours mentor coaching plus 40 hours education throughout 3 years. But when you want to acquire one of the levels, you need to take the exam, but you also get an oral exam. Before, that oral exam was on the phone with 2 assessors. One you were coaching and the other one would be listening. What we have done now, take the telephone calls away, and we have included 2 recordings. So the assessors are now on their own time listening to the recordings and evaluating them separately. And then they bring together to see if the certificate, if the grading has been the same. And then the person will get a grading. For the MCC, it works exactly the same.
Okay, so the point for me is you have different levels, and within those levels, do you also have grades or not? I wasn't quite sure what the reference to grading was, whether it was to a level or to whether one did excellent or standard or etc.
The levels are determined by the amount of coach training you have, by the amount of coach client hours you have, and about the mentor coachings you have. For the ACC, you need 100 hours coach client and 60 hours training, and 10 hours mentor coaching. For the PCC, you need 750 hours coach client and 125 hours training. And for the MCC, you will need 200 hours coaching, and it used to be 3,000 hours client coaching. And those are the things where we have been changing things.
Okay, so Edna, you've been through all 3 levels and ended up as a master, if I understand it. Which of those levels did you get most out of, and what did you get out of the particular levels that were most professional value to you?
Well, I'm not a master. I'm in the process of getting the master. I didn't do the master for many years because I didn't trust the certification system. Now that the system has been improved, I decided to take the steps for achieving my master's. And that for me is a big thing, because now I trust the system. It's not it used to be a very subjective system, but with the new changes in the examination, it has become a more objective and more accountable system where people are fairly certified or graded.
Right, because in a system where you have different levels of qualification, it's really important, I imagine, that the steps between those levels are very clear. And if the steps aren't clear, for instance, the difference between a master and the next level down is not sufficient of a step and is sufficiently measured, then the system doesn't work as well as it might be. And it's beginning to sound like that might have been an issue for you, but I wanted to check with you on that.
Yeah. That's the reason a lot of people that were very good were not passing, and people that were not very good were passing, because the exam was very subjective. It had a lot to do with the assessors listening and giving their own interpretation to things. By refining the core competencies and by refining by levels the different markers, and explaining to the public what these markers are, it makes the examination much a better process. We have just finished with, about 6 months ago, the PCC markers have been totally finished. They are a wonderful tool to measure where you are, especially for the ACCs and the PCCs. So we're working very hard to get the system fair for everybody.
Okay, so as I listen to you, it sounds actually that there are 2 bodies of people that are being assessed. One is the coachee, but the other is effectively also the assessor. And so that if the necessary accreditation and objectivity isn't in place for the assessor, then that's the weakness in the overall accreditation system. That's what I'm hearing, but I'd just like to share that with you.
Yeah, that's true, and that's the reason why we have now, ICF has now developed a very hard and very specific training for the assessors. The assessors are being trained very, very conscientiously based on the markers that we have defined, which means that the exam, they have trained about 50 assessors in the last 7-8 months. And what they have done now is to check if that exam is much better. They have done a control. So all the 50 assessors have taken the same recording, and they have graded the same recording, and we got over 96% similarity. That means that 96% of the exam was graded in the same way. And that, of course, gives a very high grade of trust in the system.
That's great. The other thing in my mind is that within the coaching training, mentors have now formed an important part of that. Has it ever been considered that mentors are useful in relation to assessors, or has that thought never taken place?
No, that part has not taken place because the assessors are being, they have become a community and they're being trained by a very good system, and at the same time within the community they are working together. But the mentor coaches are really for the coaches who would like to create a better understanding of their own skills, because that's what really the mentor coaching is doing. And ICF is requiring for each level 10 hours mentor coaching. And in the job of the mentor coach, if you are well trained and educated, which is sadly enough in most cases not the case, the mentor coach will help you grow your skills, help you look where your blind spots are, and will help you understand the connection of the competencies, how they work together, so that you look at them separately and then you bring them together to understand how the process works, because you cannot be present if you don't create trust, but you cannot create trust if you are not listening. So it's a whole combination of things, and a good mentor coach should be able to support the coach client to go through that process. No, I just wanted to say that the problem is mentor coaching is, I think it's about 3 years, no more. I think it's been introduced about 3 years, 4 years at the maximum. But the mentor coaches by themselves are not being trained. They're not professional. So anybody can be a mentor coach who has an ICF certification. And that has to be changed.
Okay. Which brings us back to the whole process. The start of any process is actually the selection procedures. And those selection procedures have now been introduced at the front end coaching applications. What I'm hearing is that the same selection procedures may not exist in the same way with mentors as they do with coaches, or that's an assumption, or is that big?
No, that's an assumption. ICF has said that the mentor coach is somebody that can support coaches in the growth of their skills. They are not allowed to coach the coach in their business or personal development. It's only to look at their skills. But if you are not trained or not able to understand how the process itself and how the competencies are intertwined, it's very difficult to be a good mentor coach. And that's why I think there should be a certification of certain kind for mentor coaches.
Okay. Can I just come back to my question, because I don't think that I expressed it very clearly. With coaching, there's a selection procedure, that selection procedure involves something that's the equivalent of an entry exam to see whether the coach has the necessary coaching skills to be accepted into the program. So what my question was, is there a parallel entry exam for people who want to train as mentor coaches or not?
No, nothing.
So could that possibly be one of the weaknesses?
It is. There are really two things that in my opinion, ICF has to urgently work on. One is get the MCC markers like we have done for PCC, because that would invite and would strengthen the MCC process. But before that, I think we also need to get the mentor coaches certified, or at least ICF should revise what a mentor coach should do and what are the skills a mentor coach should have. That's what I strongly are working on getting ICF moving into that direction.
It's really great, because what I'm hearing is there's not sufficient alignment and there are also not sufficient, how can I put it, protections in place.
That's right.
So I'm wondering whether this would be a good time for us to shift to, firstly, what you think would be an improvement, and secondly, I know you're at the forefront of designing these programs, so say a little bit more about improvements and also move into what you consider the key ingredients are of a training and development program that will deliver top marks in core competencies, standards and ethics, and maybe focus that question on the mentor coaching side of things.
Okay. I think what is important is to understand that when you are an assessor or you are a coach or you are a trainer, it doesn't mean you can do all three of them. Personally, I believe you need to be trained and you need to have certain attachment to that level. And the problem now is that anybody who has a certification can become a mentor coach, but that doesn't mean they have learned from the schools, because schools teach you how to coach, they teach you models. But often after the training of 125 hours, nothing happens. The coaches get a little bit training there, but they are not learning to go beyond the models, to understand that a model only helps you when it's connected to something beyond just asking a question or just asking the client to breathe or just doing one of the things they have learned at school. They have to go beyond that. And I think that a mentor coach is just the right person to help the coach to look at, let's stand here and look at how you coach through a recording or standing there in the present. But after that, you need to look at your recording, at your performance as a coach. And a mentor coach is the ideal person, if they are trained, to help you ask questions and bring the awareness of how you are doing things and how the models you have learned 5-6 years ago are not being of service anymore because you have outgrown them, or you are not realizing that each client should not have the same coaching, the same models. And so it's very important that the mentor coach gets beyond that. And I think that training, certifying, or studying to become a mentor coach will help the mentor coach understand how to guide coaches in their growth.
How I relate to that is in terms of professional advancement, there's a very clear shift from process to practice. The process level, then one's depending on the various models, and those models, the fit-all model, and they don't take in the uniqueness of every human relationship. When you move into practice, you're moving into that space where there are just two human beings relating to one another on the basis of their experience. And in a sense, that is a very important progression in terms of professional development. And if it's okay with you, I think it would be very useful for you to go into some of the detail of the program design and its intentions that you've been involved with.
I was trained at another school as certified mentor coach a year ago, and I loved it. But I felt that I was missing certain things, and one of the things is exactly what you just sketched, that moving from the organization to the structure to the process, and help the coach client to understand that if you want to grow, you need to look at models in a very different way. So what I've done with my partner is set up a training program, but we are in the first part just looking at what coaching really is about. And we try in the first 4 weeks to strip the coaches out of all those old rusty models they have been using for who knows how long, and give them the security and the trust, and teach them to think more from the intuition and from listening in a present situation. So we spent a lot of time on looking at models, what really models are doing, how models are helping them or not helping them. And then the rest of the training program is really looking at each competency based on how they are performing, based on what they have learned, and based on the questions they have, rather than giving them a complete lesson. So it's quite a dynamic system where you have 10 people who have a different understanding of a competency, and together, in a discussion and in practice, we bring it to a more ICF understanding of that competency itself. And then the system itself will give you a lot of different chances to meet with different ICF masters. In our program, we have 4 MCCs who are coming at different times throughout the program to coach, to mentor, and to have a dialogue with the different participants on the different mentor coaching, on the different competencies, which gives a very nice way of looking at 4 or 5 experts in their field, and you can pick their brains and create your own style of mentor coaching. And that's why I'm very excited about this program.
Sure, because in some respects it sounds that it's almost a culmination of your long-time involvement in accreditation and seasoned standards and ethics. So I imagine it's quite exciting, both for you personally, but also that the profession and the ICF is beginning the importance of this change. The other thing which it sounds like is that you're also on the cusp of some kind of transition, which is a very exciting place to be.
Yeah, I think next year ICF will be taking the steps, because there are a couple of few training programs, and there are probably about, 40, 50 mentor coaches already certified, probably a little bit more, which is starting to create that critical mass needed for mentor coaching to become a requirement, and certified being one of the requirements for the mentor coaches.
So if we were to fast forward a year, bearing in mind the various developments that are in play, how would you see your profession and your practice figuring a year down the line, both in terms of delivering to your coachees, but also in terms of impacting on the ICF and their accreditation systems?
I hope, and my vision is that in a year's time, in 18 months' time, that mentor coaches need to be certified, and that there is a basic system where you're looking at the training of the assessors, the knowledge of the coaches, and what the mentor coaches have, how the mentor coaches have been trained, and that among the mentor coaches, they create also a community where they can discuss and talk with each other about mentor coaching, what it means, how it's affecting them, what's happening to the participants, so that that part of the coaching profession becomes also more professional, and the mentor coaching be a really standing element of the development and growth of each coach and the profession itself.
Which is great. And one way of looking at a mentor is someone who in their career have gained invaluable experience and then want to pass that experience on to people who are coming up and through the profession.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a little part of it.
So I can really understand how the mentor coaching coming on the scene has been very exciting for you from a professional viewpoint.
Yeah, and I know that there are a lot of other coaches that are really pushing or, promoting mentor coaching as a professional, more professional part of the whole certification element.
Before we come to a close, are there any parts of the journey and the situation with the change in qualifications that you feel we may have missed, or do you feel we...
Well, I think we have talked about everything. I would like to mention that the MCC markers are not being defined yet. They're working on it. And we need to be patient because MCC, the evaluating MCC is much harder than PCC, because PCCs and ACCs are a little bit more in the models, in a process. But MCCs are more expected to coach from a dialogue, a partnership, a intuition. And that, of course, makes it harder to create markers that are very evaluable, that you can say met, or not met. But I'm really confident that we're going to find a way to create in the MCC the same marker system.
So the question that comes to mind is, could one of the most important areas in which mentor coaching figures be actually at the MCC level? Really a tremendous amount to offer, and could go quite a long way to filling some of the gaps that you noticed earlier on.
Yeah, what I would like to see is the ICF working not so isolated, but for example getting the MCCs talking with professional mentor coaches, because the mentor coaches gather a different kind of experience and knowledge from their clients. And if you create a conversation between professional mentor coaches and the MCCs and the ICF organization, who is in charge of creating the markers, you are going to really be nearer to how the whole process of MCC works. So I really hope, I think that one of the main steps is to get more mentor coaches certified and start a conversation with ICF and the MCCs.
Okay. So listen to this from the outside. It sounds to me that one of the real strengths of your program design that you'll be, I think it's starting sometime in September, is that right?
8th of September.
8th of September, is that you're incorporating the presence of master coaches on that. And that's right. A very effective way of doing the kind of integration that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the reason why we have designed the program like this, to create that conversation and the exchange of knowledge and experience.
And also not just conversations, but presumably much higher level conversations. So Edme, it's been a pleasure. Would you like to just to say a few words about your program and the best way that people can connect with you? Obviously, you'll circulate your details. Is there a simple contact point?
Yeah, we have a website, mentorcoachcoachingprogram.com. You can find the whole information about the program. We believe in small groups, so we are using a maximum of 12 people per group. So the program fills in hopefully very fast, so the first arrive, first serve. It starts September the 8th, and it's a webinar that will meet every Tuesday for 15 weeks. Again, the times depends on where you are in the world. Last training we had 7 different countries, so that was very exciting because then the cultural issue of coaching comes very nicely included in the program itself. And we have people from different levels, so that gives a big richness and great discussion. So I hope more people come and they believe in certifying as mentor coaches so that they can help the profession grow.
That's just reminded me of something else, Edme. You're multilingual. I'm not sure, is it 4 languages?
That's right. I work in 4 languages.
So there's also the scope for you to, for instance, at some stage be introducing this to Spanish-speaking Latin America, Spain, etc. would be one obvious.
Yeah, the intention would be next year to do similar program in Spanish.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome, and I would like to just wish you every success. And I think having someone who's so clear and committed to standards, core competencies and ethics is absolutely critical to any professional development, whether you're involved in this at the accreditation level or the delivery of training programs.